All right. All right. Let us begin. Welcome to this week's Lunch and Learn workshop for high achieving women. This week, we are talking about one of my favorite topics. I think I say that every week though, but I really love talking about imposter syndrome because I have yet to find a woman who does not struggle with imposter syndrome. So today's topic is imposter syndrome, how to stop doubting your awesomeness. And for those of you who don't know me, well, you all know me, but I am Jen Laffin. I'm the founder of Jen Laffin Coaching. I'm a certified professional coach and a master teacher. And if you didn't know this or not about me, I am a former ballerina. So if you check out that picture there, this is one of my favorite pictures of me from when I was younger. And the reason that I chose it for today is because I was looking at this picture and I was wondering to myself, this picture, I remember the day this picture was taken and how excited I was to be performing in this recital. And I wonder where that girl went. Where was that girl who could fling herself around on the stage? She no longer believes that about herself. And so I'm just wondering, like, what exactly happened that changed that view that I had about myself? And a lot of it has to do with imposter syndrome now. So let's begin. Today, I'm going to talk to you about what imposter syndrome is, why imposter syndrome loves us high achieving women, how imposter syndrome, procrastination, and perfectionism are tied together. I actually refer to them as the trifecta. And 7 tips you can use today to dull the effects of imposter syndrome. And then at the end, I'm going to talk to you about a special offer I have right now. So what is imposter syndrome? Well, I like to think of self-doubt as being like a shapeshifter that sometimes will put on different costumes depending on its purpose. And imposter syndrome is just one of the costumes that self-doubt wears. The purpose of self-doubt is to keep you in your comfort cave. And if you remember from past weeks when I talked about the primal brain is that old, undeveloped part of our brain that still thinks we all live in caves and have threats that really, truly no longer exist. And the primal brain has 3 goals: to keep you safe, to keep you alive, and to keep you lazy, to conserve energy. Those are the only 3 things that the primal brain is really concerned about. And the way that it helps you or keeps you doing that and keeps you in your comfort cave is that is the part of our brain that regulates our thoughts and our emotions. Okay, that is not the logic center of our brain. That is our prefrontal cortex. So imposter syndrome is one of those costumes that self-doubt has to put on when we start doing brave things and it needs us to go back into our comfort cave. Imposter syndrome arises anytime we try to do something new or challenging, or again, like anything that is beyond our comfort cave. And this also applies to when we do things that society or maybe our family has sent us the message that this is not something that we should be doing, whether they said it to us explicitly or whether we inferred it from our upbringing. Imposter syndrome it tells us each many different things, but maybe you're familiar with some of these things. So when you're trying to, like, let's say, join a new club, you might hear your imposter syndrome tell you, you don't belong here. Maybe let's say you're trying to push yourself and you're entering a writing contest. Imposter syndrome may tell you you're not good enough, whether it's true or not. It wants you to believe that it's true, right? Let's say you're in business and you make a big sale. Imposter syndrome might tell you, you got lucky. Okay. Maybe you are at work and you want to ask for a promotion. Imposter syndrome might tell you you're not qualified or you don't deserve a promotion. And let's say maybe you are in business and you submit a proposal to do something for someone. That nagging feeling that we experience over like pricing our services, imposter syndrome loves to tell us either you shouldn't charge that much or you should do that for free. Who are you to be charging for something like that? I want you to know that imposter syndrome is something that we all feel. And unfortunately, it's not something that goes away because again, the primal brain is so intent on keeping you safe, alive, and lazy. And it is found that imposter syndrome is an excellent tool to use. But it's important to know that everybody feels it. It is not just you. So I went through and I found some quotes from some people that I think you'll know. This quote is from award-winning actress Meryl Streep, who said, "You think, why would anyone want to see me again in a movie? I don't think I know how to act anyway, so why am I doing this?" Former First Lady Michelle Obama once said, "I still have imposter syndrome. It doesn't go away. That feeling that you shouldn't take me seriously. Like, what do I know?" And finally, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor once said, "I have spent my years since Princeton while at law school and in my various professional jobs, not feeling completely a part of the worlds I inhabit. I am always looking over my shoulder, wondering if I measure up." So here we have these three women who we hold in very high esteem, and they appear to us like they have it all together, yet on the inside, they still have imposter syndrome. So why does imposter syndrome love us high achieving women? Well, there's lots of reasons. The first one is that we are often setting the precedent. We have female role models that have come through our lives, but let's face it, like most of the big things in the world that we see are modeled after what men have done before us. As we start finding our voices and taking our place in the spotlight, we're going to find more women role models for us to follow. So oftentimes we are the first one setting that precedent. If you take this even a little bit closer to home, sometimes we are the first person in our family or in our community that is doing the hard thing. I remember when I graduated college, I was the first person ever in my family to graduate college. And that was really awe-inspiring for me, and also a lot of imposter syndrome. Second, society is always focused on the men being the achievers, the breadwinners, and females being the nurturer. So we've got some conditioning to overcome there. High achieving women also are great at setting very high standards for ourselves and trying to go all out to meet them. It's prime for some imposter syndrome to kick in because we set challenges for ourselves way outside of our comfort zone. Okay, we are very achievement oriented, and we have been, perhaps we believe that showing that we are confident in something is arrogance. And I've actually had a few clients that I've talked to specifically about this, the difference between confidence and arrogance. And I want to share that with you right now. So arrogance, if you are unclear on the difference between the two, arrogance is defined as having an inflated sense of importance or abilities, whereas confidence is a belief that you can rely on yourself and your abilities. You're not feeding yourself a line of anything. You have this very strong belief that you can do what you say you're going to do. Arrogance is when you are over the top inflated about what you're capable of doing. So I want to talk about perfectionism, procrastination, and imposter syndrome and how those are tied together, because many high achieving women are also perfectionists. And there is a direct tie between perfectionism and imposter syndrome. And right in the middle is procrastination. So let's say you are going to start doing maybe a project or taking on something that is outside of your comfort zone. Naturally, high achieving women are prone to perfectionism. A lot of times we tell ourselves, like, I can't begin until I know the whole journey. I want to make sure I take the right route. I want to make sure that I do the right thing. I would hate to fail. I would hate to look like I don't know what I'm doing. So therefore, we let our perfectionism stop us from doing what we want to do through procrastination. And procrastination is delaying, starting, avoiding doing the hard things because we are experiencing that self-doubt. As we're procrastinating, time is passing. And during that time, imposter syndrome is sneaking in. So as imposter syndrome is taking advantage of you waiting, you're reinforcing the need to be perfect, which means nothing is going to get done. All right, so what you all came for today. Let's talk about some tips to overcome imposter syndrome. The first one is to lessen your need for perfection. And one of the concepts that I was taught and that I teach my clients is something called B- work. And if you remember back from the grading system back in school, like C's were considered average. Although for many high achieving women, you may have been sent the message that C is unacceptable. Anyways, B- work, above, somewhere between above average and average. So your work does not need to be perfect to go out in the world. So many times we put work out there that we have to go back and revise anyways, and keep revising and keep revising and keep revising and changing it, that not sending it out or not releasing it until it's perfect is an impossibility, because it's never going to be perfect. I have this mantra that I love to use, which is done is better than perfect. There is, to me, like one of the best feelings is when I beat my procrastination by getting something done early. And it's almost like it's a sneaky little thing, because as I'm doing the thing, because I'm trying to beat procrastination, that seems to keep imposter syndrome at bay. And I feel so much better when it's over. Another tip to overcome imposter syndrome, just begin. Okay. Remember the motto, ABC, action brings clarity. You do not have to know the entire route to just begin. Okay. Many times after you take the first step, you will notice that you are now aware of the next step and the next step and the next step. Okay. But if you allow yourself to spin in confusion at the start line and never begin, your brain is going to automatically withhold that next step from you because it wants you to stay in your comfort zone. Okay. So when you're experiencing imposter syndrome, try to push it to the side and just take one step. Even if that one step ends up being not the correct step, you will quickly learn what the correct step is if you begin. If you're sitting at the waiting line, at the starting line, waiting to figure out what the right thing is to do, that's exactly where you're going to stay. Let's see. So another tip, ask yourself, is this what this imposter syndrome is telling me? Is it true, or does it just feel true? Because remember, the primal brain loves to manipulate our emotions and our thoughts to keep us in our comfort cave. So you can re-engage your prefrontal cortex and quiet down your primal brain by asking yourself the question, is this true, or does it just feel true? Is it true that I don't belong here? Is it true that I got lucky when I got this big sale? Okay. Or is it just feeling true? Next tip, become aware of your inner voice. Awareness is so key. It's being that thought watcher that we've talked about so many times and actually listening for it. So you know when you're going out of your comfort cave and you're going to start doing hard things, you know to expect imposter syndrome. Be specially aware of when it is by listening to that inner voice. That inner voice is your imposter syndrome. It is your self-doubt. And remember, the primal brain's goals are to stay safe, stay alive, and stay lazy. It's going to talk to you any way it needs to get you to stay in your comfort zone. You can tune in and listen to that voice. And once you're aware of it, then you can take some steps to put it away. This next tip is something a lot of women really struggle with that I have found, and that is own your accomplishments. Be proud of the things that you do. When someone gives you a compliment, don't deflect it. Say thank you and know that you are worthy of that compliment and that you did good things. You earned it. Okay. So many times when we achieve something, when we look back at it, we are so good at finding everything that went wrong or everything that we could have done different instead of noticing the good. If you have a goal and the time is up for your goal, instead of noticing that you didn't meet your goal, if you didn't meet it, notice the progress that you did make. Okay, notice the good. And in doing that, you actually give your brain more good things to look for. The brain is an amazing tool, and it will go to work finding the things that you tell it to look for. If you're telling it to go look for the things that you're doing well, it's going to start finding more of them. But the vice versa is also true. If you're telling it to look for places where you want it to actually prove that imposter syndrome correct, like all the, let's say imposter syndrome is saying like, oh, don't go to that yoga class. You don't know, you're not going to be as good as everyone else. You don't belong there. All of a sudden, then your brain is going to go to work finding all of those other times when you tried to do something for the first time where you felt like you didn't fit in. Okay. This one, we just went backwards. Here we go. There we go. Visualize your success in a way that you want to have it happen. Close your eyes and actually visualize whatever it is you're trying to do and give your brain a blueprint or a map that it can take to get you where you want to go. Okay, this is a very, very, very powerful exercise. Again, because your brain goes to work finding what you tell it to look for. So this is something, if you have been with me and you watched my journaling workshop, this is a part of the journaling process I teach, which is at the very end of doing your goal journaling. You close your eyes, you visualize how your goal is going to happen, and then you write down the steps. Okay, it makes it so much easier for your brain to go to work making it happen. Another way is to overcome imposter syndrome is to acknowledge that it's there and just do it anyways. Someone has to be brave. Someone has to do it first. Okay. Take intentional action despite what you're feeling. So, as we wrap up, I want you to remember, choosing to let imposter syndrome stop you is a choice. When imposter syndrome is telling you that you can't do something, or that you're not worthy, or that you don't belong, or you don't deserve it, choosing to believe it is a choice. You can also choose to believe the opposite. Please remember that nothing changes if nothing changes. We've been dealing with imposter syndrome for a whole entire life. If we continue to let it call the shots, we are never going to do the things in this life that we want to do. So it's important that you take that intentional action to get your things done. Remember that you are the boss of you. You get to call the shots. Your primal brain thinks it's in charge, but you can always engage your prefrontal cortex, which is where the logic center is, and you can make choices in your own good. I would also like you to remember the world needs more strong women role models to pave the way, to show other women what's possible, to make their journey a little bit easier. We know from those quotes before, there are women who have started right where we are right now and fought against imposter syndrome to get to where they are today. You don't leave your comfort zone without having to battle imposter syndrome. Okay. And one thing that I like to remember, and I've talked about this before, is you will always have people watching you, whether this is a friend, whether it's a child or a family member. You are a role model for the other women that are in your world. They are looking at you and seeing how you're doing it so that they can believe in themselves and that they can do their brave things too. So finally, I want you to remember the things your imposter syndrome tells you are just thoughts. They are just thoughts. Thoughts are not facts. Okay, facts have to be 100% provable in a court of law. Thoughts are not facts. They're what your version of the fact. Therefore, thoughts can be questioned and changed. So the next time you're experiencing imposter syndrome and it's trying to stop you from doing your big thing, remember, become aware of it, question it, make an intentional choice not to listen to it. Finally, I have a brand new offer that I'm offering only for the month of October. If you are tired of feeling like an imposter, or you have any other issue going on in your world right now where you keep getting in your way, I invite you to join me for a power hour session. 60 minutes, you and I are going to sit down on Zoom. We're going to discuss one topic, issue, or problem that you need help with. It's only $99. It's a special for the month of October. And you can schedule at that link, and I'll also put it in the chat for you. And let me see. There we go. All right. There you all are. Are there any questions? Anyone have a favorite form of imposter syndrome they want to share? Takeaways?
This is very good timing, considering I'm getting out of my comfort zone tomorrow.
Yes, you are.
I hate standing up in front of people and talking, especially talking about myself. And it's something I scheduled it because I figured if I scheduled it, then I would have to do it. And I scheduled it far out enough that I could think about it for a bit. And of course, I didn't really think about it strongly until this week. Because, you know, it's like, I got lots of time. I got lots of time to think about it. I'll come up with something.
And you know what happened in that time that you gave yourself?
Yeah, that's when all the imposter syndrome came up. And
yep, you gave your brain more time to give you all the reasons why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's just best to be like, all right, I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Like, and jump right in and do it. Right?
Yes. Yes.
So
yeah, it's like, what have I got that I can contribute? You know?
Well, I can tell you what you have to contribute. You are, you know, we think like, who am I?
Yes.
First of all, we all bring our own experience to the table, our own views, our own backgrounds that nobody else has.
Yeah.
Okay. And then imposter syndrome also loves to make us think that we have to have all the answers to be able to teach somebody else.
Yeah.
That you have to know everything there is about whatever topic it is you're talking about. Okay. Really? You only need to be one step ahead of the people that you're teaching.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know everything about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, for example, who am I to be teaching about imposter syndrome when it's something that I battle every day? Right. I could let that stop me. And I could have said like, I'm not doing lunch and learn, but then none of you would have been able to benefit from the things that I've learned. Right. So, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yes.
Yep. Does not have to be perfect. Miss Shelley, did that resonate with you?
Yeah, it really did. It was so powerful to me. The perfection, the procrastination, that visual that you had, and the imposter syndrome, because it really does. For me, I'm not afraid of being in front of people, but fear is like so like gripping me in this need for perfection. So the perfection makes me put off the timing, lets the imposter syndrome build. And it's like, that's what my comment was. It's like they feed each other. It's crazy. And because when you said that, sometimes it's best to jump in. I was like, yeah, but what if I make a fool of myself? And I'm not going to, because I know that what I have to share is valuable. That was just I loved that visual. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you found it helpful. Yeah, when I started Lunch and Learn, I literally decided 6 days before my first session that I was going to do Lunch and Learn, because my coach challenged me to do something. And I knew if I said, okay, well, I'll start it next month, I knew that I would spend the next 3 weeks not thinking about it, kind of like what Joanna was saying, not thinking about it, and then in a panic for the last week, because then I have to put everything together, versus just saying like, I'm going to do this B-. I know something I can teach. That's good enough. Right?
Well, it's interesting because as I'm writing, down my thoughts about what I'm going to talk about, I've always said my business has been reactive rather than proactive. It's always been somebody asks me to do something and I say yes, and then I figure out how to do it. It's not necessarily a good business model, but for example, I started somebody asked me to photograph their wedding and I said sure, and I figured out what to do and didn't charge them nearly enough money and so forth. And then somebody said, well, what's your website so I can see your work? And I thought, oh, I should really have one of those, so then I built a website. And so things like that, it's kind of gone that way all through my business. But a lot of times I think it's a good thing to say yes to something and then figure it out, rather than saying, oh, I don't know if I can do that.
Totally.
No one knows if this is your B- work unless you tell us. I wiped out in the middle of a class, wiped out. I'm a personal trainer for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
I wiped out. I got up, stuck the landing. I'm a highly trained professional. Don't try this at home. And everybody laughed. Did it look like an idiot? Yeah, maybe, but I didn't break any bones.
I didn't stick the landing.
You did with the whole hand.
Yeah. I hit the ground with my hand, so I didn't break my head, but
There you go.
Yeah, your B- work, someone else is going to see as A+ work.
Yeah.
So lower your perfectionist standards for yourself, because by staying stuck in your comfort cave, you are robbing people of learning from you. You all have something you can teach other people, share with other people, offer to other people, that you're afraid of what you're going to look like if you do it, if you fail. Just think of Linda, stick the landing. I meant to do it this way. Haha, joke's on you that you thought that wasn't planned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's awake.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So you can always, yes, that's true. You can always say, well, who spotted the deliberate mistake?
I meant to do that. Any other comments, questions, takeaways you'd like to share today? All right.
I just keep thinking about your thoughts are not 100% true, because left to my own, sometimes they're really just an interpretation, right? They're kind of just an assumption. So I've been really trying to pause and gather facts before I take my thoughts as the gospel truth. Thanks for that.
Well, and here's the thing, Anne, when I was taught that my thoughts are not facts, that was life-changing for me, right? I'm like, what do you mean? And then, you mean other women have imposter syndrome? I thought it was just me. I thought it was because I'm so terrible at doing things that, it just affects me. So learning that those things that you think are not necessarily the truth and that you can change them, it is life-changing. It is also something that is work you will do for your whole entire life. It's not like all of a sudden there's like a switch that gets turned on where you're like the truth teller and you're able to spot a fact, a fact from a thought. You can't, it's something you always, because of the primal brain, right? So tricky. So tricky. All right, everyone. Well, our time today is up next week.
Yay.
Next week, we are going to be talking about creating confidence when you feel like a catastrophe. I was pretty clever with the naming this month. So don't forget to grab your power hour if you're interested in that. Otherwise, tell a friend, bring a friend with you to Lunch and Learn, share the information where they can sign up. And as always, if you need anything, you know where to find me. So thank you everybody for being here today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Bye.